You can see how bad the welding is. Ooh, the brakes are quite... A lot of my videos start with the professionals, and the professionals ask me to come and do a bit of welding for them. And what have I got to weld today? Well, it's a 1986 Ford Capri. Now, I always had a bit of a soft spot for the Capri, despite the fact that I'm actually not a fan of Ford cars. This has that kind of American look about it. Look at that in red as well. What a brilliant colour. And now, for me, I would definitely restore this car properly because it is still in pretty good condition. Fords rot. It's a well-known fact that Fords do fall apart. This Capri needs a bit of welding on the sills, which I'm going to do today. Apparently it's been bodged over the last few years, and I suggested to the professionals that I'd put a sill on it. However, the guy who owns it is an old boy, and he doesn't want to spend any money. So we're just going to patch the holes, if you can see that. I don't know if you can, but there's holes. There are holes at the front of the sill down here, and I'm going to patch those, unfortunately. I would have loved to have put a sill on it and done it properly and got it colour matched up. This car would polish up beautifully if you think about it. It's a laser as well. It's one of the last ones they did. Look at that. That is a pretty little car. So it's an old guy who owns it. He uses it as a daily driver. This car has been in constant use from 1986 to the present day. Now that is pretty special. And it's a pretty special car as well. I mean, the Capri is the car of the professionals, not our professionals, but the professionals on the telly. Bodine Doyle used to drive these cars. So this is our daily driven classic Ford Capri video. If you do like what the channel does, please hit the subscribe button. It's really important to us and it'll help the channel grow, and we'll do more interesting projects. So it's a 1986 1.6 laser Capri. It's been daily driven for the last 34 years. Anyway, the car's come in for its annual MOT and it's failed on a few little bits and bobs. Nothing particularly serious. It's got a bit of welding in the boot and it's got a bit of welding on the sill. And they're the two bits that I'm concerned with and the bits I'm going to sort out. Ford made the Capri from 1968 to 1986, and this is a Mark III. It's from 1986, so it's one of the very last ones that they made. And all the later ones that came out of the factory with the 1.6 and the 2-litre engine were branded as lasers, which was Ford's way of kind of making them a bit cooler, although they were the bottom end spec. And they did succeed, in my opinion, because it came out with the nice alloy wheels and it's got the twin headlights and the seats were slightly better and the fin on the boot. And it does have brand similarities to the RS 2000 Escort, which of course was a super cool car at the time. All of the Mark III Capris were built in Ford's Cologne factory in Germany, which if you watch our last video, the Alfa Romeo Across Europe video, we actually were in Cologne. Didn't see any Ford Capris, but they were built there. So we're going to get this car up on the ramp and we're going to see what 34 years worth of wear and tear looks like underneath the car. I know there's a couple of spots that it failed its mott on, so we're going to have to try and rebuild those because we're not going to be putting any new panels on it. That side doesn't look too bad. For all of Ford's reputation for being rusty, I'll tell you what, this car is particularly solid. It's never been restored, it's been used continually for its entire life. And to have a few little scabby bits on the sills, I'll tell you what, that is so good. You've got to bear in mind that Ford made nearly 2 million Capris, and many of those were probably lost to rust. 30 years ago, Capris were so abundant in the scrapyards. I had a pair of 3-litre S seats in my Renault 5 Gordini because they were just so much better seats. They were proper Recaro bucket seats, and the Renault had appalling front seats. So I've got this nice red Capri up on the ramp here, and one of the biggest things I've got to weld is that patch under there, which has got the yellow MOT failure chalk on it. And the other problem that we've got is we've got a slightly leaky petrol tank, which I've put a wet cloth over, and I'm hoping that's going to be good enough. So I've got to get in there with a grinder and try and repair that. So what I've done so far on this is I've ground around that patch. Now, bear in mind this is actually just a codge because the guy who owns the car doesn't want to spend any money on it. And I kind of understand. Hopefully we'll preserve it long enough for another owner to have it, and then they can do better repairs. So this is basically just for the MOT. We're just patching it up. And I've cut a piece of steel which is going to go over the top of that, and hopefully that's good enough to pass the MOT, which I know it will be. Just going to stitch it around there, and that'll be job done.
Bigger hammer.
No?
Bigger hammer.
No, that's alright. So I've added this little patch underneath here, which I don't want to get too close to because you can see how bad the welding is. But it covers up the hole. It means it's MOTable. I'm going to put some sealant over that so it doesn't go rusty. And that's the first part of the job. There is a little bit of more welding right at the front of the car. A little bit there which needs tackling. But I'm going to, again, that's only the front wing, and I'm just going to put a little plate over it, and that's what the owner wants. Right, we're on the front of the Capri now, and I've kind of ground away a lot of this, and this is actually the wing here, which fits onto the outside of the, that's the part of the sort of inner sill section. I'm going to have to plate this somehow in a very interesting way, and then underneath here, it's already had these outriggers repaired, and we've got a hole there which has got to be plated, and all that's for the MOT. So that's my next part, is grinding all that off and cleaning it and then welding a plate. So the bit underneath I've cleaned up as well as I can, and again this is going to be a codge just to get the car on the road, get through the MOT. There's no proper repairs going on here. This is what the customer wanted, the cheapest price possible to keep his car on the road, and that's what I'm giving him. Metal, which here isn't that brilliant, but still I'm going to plate over that, and I've cut this plate which fits nicely into there and bent it, and so I'm going to weld around that, and then I've got to weld another piece on the outside to repair the sill, to repair the wing. So I've managed to complete the two little bits of welding that I had to do and covered it with under seal. So we've got the car back down on its wheels, and the lads have got a couple of other little things, including the leaky petrol tank, to sort out. Gives me a chance to have a quick look around the car. That's the inline 4-cylinder 1.6 Pinto engine, producing 70 horsepower, driven through the rear wheels. Nice to see so much space around the engine. That looks like it's socially distancing from the rest of the car. I reckon the Capri was a great car, but it was a bit of a victim of its own time. By the time the 80s rolled around, coupes had sort of gone out of style. Hot hatches were the thing to have. People had Golf GTIs and Renault 5 Gordinis in my case, and XR2s and XR3s. And this did start to look like a sort of middle-aged, failed poser sort of car, which is really unfair because the engineering on this car is actually rock solid. Now that we could consider this to be a classic, I reckon this styling has stood the test of time quite well. If you take away those terrible seat covers that the owners put in, I really like the interior now. It's got that sort of 60s, 70s American car kind of look about it. One of the best things about the Capri at the moment is they're still actually quite affordable. We all know that Ford Escort prices have gone completely and utterly ridiculous. So this, for me, if you want to invest in a classic car, a Capri is a great choice of vehicle. I'm going to leave the car with the professionals who are going to sort out the last couple of things for the MOT, and I'm going to go and have my lunch, and when I come back I'm going to test drive this car. See, the garage is quite a tight space, and having such a big nose, Pete wouldn't let me drive the Capri. Okay, we'll just let that joke sink in for a couple of seconds. Anyway, one of the things he's done to it, as well as fixing the petrol tank, is he's put a new front bumper on it, and I would love to get that dent out of the wing, which has sort of been annoying me a little bit while we've had that car in. How is it to drive, Pete? So driving the classic Ford Capri. This is the oldest car I've driven in a long time. Actually drives fairly well. It's got no power steering, which makes it a little bit hard. Oh god, yeah. These cars definitely deserve a bit of a resto mod. No power steering on something like this. It's quite a heavy car, so the brakes are quite an acquired taste, to say the least. But actually, smoothness. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want a car, as a classic car, that is drivable, still fairly practical today, I would definitely recommend a Ford Capri, because parts are available for these cars. You can buy things for them that you need, and despite the fact that the power steering is non-existent, then it's actually a really nice little car. Quite impressed with this. Getting some funny looks off people. All these people who drive modern cars, they don't see these on the road very often. So you get a funny look off people when you drive past. Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. It does help us grow. There's loads of other videos on the channel you can check out. And another video coming soon. Take care of yourselves.